webinar. Please, if you could all mute yourself, or I can also do that from my end. That's great. Thank you so much for joining today. We have an extensive program, but we also have very much room for discussions, comments, and questions. The ones that have attended these webinars with us before, they know that there's an ongoing discussion in the chat. So please use that, and please raise your hand if you have a question that you want to ask live. And put on your microphone and state who you are. We would like to have this as a two-way communication and not just one-way presenting. In order to get results and moving forward, it's about your input as well. My name is Jenny, coming from ITS Norway, but also representing Nordic Plus, that is also the owner of this NEMU project. I will give the word to Trond, and he will welcome, and then I will do the managing of the time and then presenting all the our excellent people that will present today, and also handling the Q&A from your end. So please don't be shy today in this afternoon, and let's kick off this webinar. Trond, the word is yours.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for giving me the words. I am Trond Hovland. I'm the Managing Director of ITS Norway. I am also outgoing, 1 month left as a CEO, and then it will be quiet from my side, at least for a while. Anyway, the ITS associations has, over the years, invested heavily in projects that want to kind of resolve the mobility issues in the Nordic countries. We have done that in the Nordic countries. We have done it in each of the countries. We have been doing a lot of activities. In 2019, we started the NOMAD project, which is the foundation for the NEMU project, which is in the focus today. And we have been looking at data sharing, cross-border, cross-mode, in the order to have shared vehicles and mobility as a service actually come to life. We know that that is really difficult in all circumstances. Sharing data is difficult, sharing vehicles is difficult, business models are weak. And in this tricky landscape, we have kind of established the NEMU project to actually help us solve a lot of those kind of tricky questions. And we are funded by the Nordic Innovation, and they have kind of a goal to foster a world-class integration on mobility seen in the Nordic countries. The Nordic Council has a kind of a mandate or a vision that they should make the Nordic region to the most integrated and sustainable region in the world. Means that we need mobility to work cross-border, cross-mode in the Nordic. NEMU and NOMAD has set out to demonstrate that that actually is possible to cross a border and also to share vehicles as we go along on that trip. We will use in the NEMU project real data, real means of transport, real transportation providers. It is real life testing and demonstrations that we're doing. Realizing that this will be kind of not the last effort that we need to do in order to solve it. The NEMU project will address a few scenarios across some borders, across some modes. But to move on from here, we need to have a rig. We need to have something that is sustainable over time. And for the project NEMU, we also have this NEMU rig, which is a continuous series of mobility project under the Nordic Plus umbrella. Maybe Jenny will say a few words more about Nordic Plus, but that's like the uppermost umbrella. But the NEMU rig will also be a facilitator for running mobility project in this realm of the transportation sector. So with those few words, I would like to give the floor back to Jenny, and you can moderate the rest of the seminar. And I'm really looking forward to the presentation and maybe the deep dives and to learn more about the rig. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Trond. And to everyone else that just joined us, I will just repeat myself saying that we will share the presentations as PDFs and also the the webinar recording that we are doing. And please use the chat for questions, and please use the Teams channel for questions as well. This is a very active group. We're going to have hear some words about the project, and also, as Trond explained, about the possibilities of starting new projects under the Nordic Plus umbrella that is also and is funded by Nordic Innovation. And we will have a very interesting also presentation from Christopher Lewandowski from the Nordic Network for Electric Aviation at the end. And we're very much looking forward to hear about that as well. I saw you in the room, Christopher, so welcome. We will start with Johanna from Matkahuolto. She will give us the first presentation and news about NEMU project. And we will have some time for Q&A after her presentation. Please, Johanna.
Yes. Okay, so very nice afternoon for everybody. So I'm Johanna Taskinen, and the project manager of the NEMU project at Matkahuolto, and I'm giving a short status where we are with this project currently. So we are still very much in the beginning, but some things have happened anyway. First, just a short reminder what we are and what we do and what is the kind of the core of our project. The core of our project is the Trips and Tickets app, which is the Matkahuolto's app with which you can buy almost all public transport in Finland, and that is what we are going to add then the international services as well. So this Trips and Tickets app, so you can search from address to address. We are using the Open Trip Planner, the same solution which Entour is using, and which also in Finland is used by other public transport authorities. And nowadays also the train company is using the Open Trip Planner. We have several payment methods, also employee benefits, and we are selling season and serial tickets for bus operators and authorities, which are using the Matkahuolto's ticket system. We are using subsidized season and serial tickets for students and pupils, which is a big part of our business. And then we are also offering a nationwide serial tickets for buses. So those are tickets that can be used in all transport services which are using the Matkahuolto's ticket system. Services what are integrated into this app is the biggest bus company, Omnibus, and then the national train company, VR, Helsinki region public transport, Tampere, and then all the other biggest 15 cities which are coordinated under the Valtti ticket system. Then we have also integrated one demand responsive transport platform, which is provided by the Finnish Vinka company. And we are running with that about soon five DRT services in Finland. We also offer billing service for organizations, and the biggest customer there is the Finnish Defence Forces, which are offering tickets for the military people who are doing their military service in Finland and need to travel around Finland. So this is the service and platform we are using in this project as well. And what we are doing in this project, so we need to cross the sea. So we need to add the ferry trip from Finland to Sweden. Of course, also we are interested of the ferry trip from Finland to Estonia as well. But the first step for us in this project, of course, is going to Sweden, and from there onwards to then elsewhere in Sweden and Norway and Denmark. The main target group for us is the people living in Finland who want to travel to Sweden or Åland and back. So that is the primary focus for us in the beginning. Of course, we are happy to offer the Trips and Tickets app also for people who have already bought their ferry trip, so that they can easily buy the connecting trips within Finland to or from the ferry terminals. So that is also very interesting to us, but the main focus of this project is to offer the travel chain where you can book the whole trip, including the ferry trip. So where we are with this, so well, might not be news to you, but these contracts always take some time. So for this, we need to sign a contract with the ferry company Viking Line and also the ticket API provider Ferry Gateway. So we need to assign 2 contracts, and we are in good process here. We hope to get the contract signed within few weeks. There are still some issues to discuss. So this has been very we have learned some things also during this process, but I'm very optimistic that we will get this thing done. But still, there are issues that are new to us when we are considering international trips and ferries, which we have not run into previously when we have been selling only bus and train and local transport tickets. And what we also did, so we facilitated a discussion between Entur and Ferry Gateway. So, and the idea was that could we get the Ferry Gateway to produce also the ferry schedule data in the NetX format. Currently, they are providing it in the GTF format, but it would be very good for the NEMU project and also for the whole development of the travel chain process to provide it also in the NetX format. So that was a very fruitful discussion. So maybe Brede has some things to tell from his side also from it. So that was a good thing that we have kind of opened this discussion with the ferry companies. What else we have been doing? So we have now started to define and specify the process, how we need to end our ticket purchasing process. So, and there, of course, the cabin reservation is something new to us. Of course, it's somewhat similar to place reservation, but there are some differences. And now we have been making some comparisons. So, what is different compared to train and bus place reservations, and what is similar? And this is a process that we have just started, and this is going at the moment. And it has been already very fruitful. Yep. And what else we did? So last time in the first webinar, I talked about this issue that there is this risk that the overnight travel chains that last over 24 hours, there is a risk that they might be considered as a travel package, which then have some. There is a legislation that requires the operator to, or the tickets selling operator to give some kind of a warranty for the customers, that which is quite big, and this is something that we don't want to take this responsibility. But now we had an initial answer from the Association of Finnish Travel Industry that this most probably is not the case with a travel chain consisting of a bus and train trip within Finland and then a ferry trip crossing from Finland to Sweden and then continue, because And that comes to the fact that that the main purpose of the trip defines whether this travel chain is a travel package or not. So if the main purpose is the transportation from A to B, then it's not considered a travel package, even if it would include an overnight stay. And this is, of course, something that you can also think of, that there are, for instance, night trains, and you are, sleeping in the train, and it's not considered a travel package. So it's the same situation with the ferries. Even though ferries are, at least especially between Finland and Sweden, they are also entertainment centers. So then there is this issue that if the main purpose of the ferry trip is to enjoy or something like that, a vacation, then it is considered as a travel package. But in this case that we are offering a trip going from one place to another, then the main purpose most probably always is just a transportation. Then I think we are in the safe side, and we don't need to take all the responsibilities of the travel package providers. So this is what we currently think, but we still maybe want to have a official answer to this as well. However, there are some risks because the EU regulation is getting a little bit stricter for intermodal travel chains. So this is something that I think we need to follow within this project. That are there some risks that this would get more difficult to do, but this is something we need to dig into a bit more later phase. And here's just a very short view what we are going to do next. So as I said, we are in the beginning. We are almost finalized the signing of the contracts, and we have started to define the what we need to do. And now then what we need, we will start to do the actual work to start the integration of the Viking Line tickets and through the ferry gateway, and also modify our user interface so that it takes into account all the necessary steps. So this was our short status description from our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Johanna. That was very interesting. If there are no hands up, I at least have my first question to you, Johanna. Could you? Is there a possibility to elaborate a little bit about the issues in the contract, stating that? Is it because they're afraid of competition when they share data and information?
No.
Or is it the data format, or what kind of issues do you foresee, or have they informed about thinking about others that want to do similar kind of commitments in other countries?
They are mostly about details. Some response issues what we are responsible of, and I think it's because the ferry companies, they have used to signing contracts with travel agencies, and it's a little bit different business from like just a ticket sales operator. So it's a little bit different type of contract. So there are some wordings and nuances that we are just not sure how they should be interpreted in our case. So they need to be just more clear, because we don't want to. We are not a travel agency, so I think that's because they are not used to this kind of cooperation so far. So I don't think it's big issues. It's just a little bit reformulating some things. But then there are some things which concern the ticket the cancellation process, and then also when changes happen in the schedule, for instance, if the ferry trip is cancelled or something. So are we responsible of informing those things, or how does it go? Because then it will get quite a huge integration work if we need to do everything. So this is kind of because currently our cancellation process is very simple. We don't offer cancellation for travel chains. This is something we of course want to change, but it's quite a big effort. And then if we also need to do kind of also need to consider what kind of things we need to then inform the passenger, how much we are responsible of the sudden changes or something like that. So this is also something that we need to do. So, and we need to move forward in a stepwise manner, so to say. So these are maybe the two issues that I could mention at this point, but as I said, this is in the process, so I don't have a very clear presentation about it currently.
Okay, yeah, excellent. That was.
But I don't think they are big things. I think we will manage. But anyway, we are quite. We are not a very big company, but we are still enough a big company, and as is Viking Line, so we have our lawyers and things take time because we want to be, sure that we just don't, we cannot just step into something unknown, so that always then takes time.
Very good. And there's a question, actually, a similar one that I had myself when you talked about the travel packages and also the EU regulation getting stricter. Are you referring to which EU regulations and what are you referring to there are becoming stricter?
Here, maybe if I could ask some help from my colleague Tuomo here, because I actually have not, I just know that it's going and I know that there might be something. I have not had time to study that myself, but I just wanted to mention that this is something that we might want to do together at some point, just to have a check that what is going on there. So, but myself, I'm not so familiar with it.
With an HSL ticket.
Yeah, it's about passenger rights in intermodal.
Rights.
Yeah.
Oh, Tuomo is in a train.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is something I think that at least the aviation companies, they are, getting more responsibilities there, but I'm not sure if there is as big influence for train and bus services. But this is definitely something that I think in this project we could have a look at, so that if there is something that we need to consider. But as I said, I myself have not yet read it thoroughly. Just wanted to mention that.
I think that's something that we can follow up in the project. So that's a very good, valid point. So thank you for that. Ole, you raised your hand, at least.
Yeah, I have a question.
If you could just state who you are, what company you represent. Thank you.
I'm Ole Torbo. I'm a product owner of Tickets, which is one of the large ticket apps for public transport in Denmark. I'm just curious, and it might be a stupid question, but are you integrating with other ticket backends and selling other people's tickets, or are you selling fare and sharing revenue with them, or how? I mean, I'm just curious because do you need to integrate with a lot of different ticket backends, or do you just have your own ticket backend and then figure out how you share the fare afterwards?
We have both.
Yeah, I will also talk about that in the next presentation.
Yeah. So yeah, there are, because that's the thing what we are kind of working on in this project, that there might be something common backends that we could use. But currently we are integrating to each ticket backend separately. But we of course have our own ticket system. Matkahuolto is a company who provides ticket systems for bus companies and public transport authorities. So we have our own ticket system, but then we have integrated our trips and tickets app. So we have integrated also other ticket systems. So, but of course, this is an internal integration also within our company. So we have integrated our own ticket system into our app. But then there are different. Let's not go to the business cases at this point. There are several.
Very good. Thank you for that. I think that's a very good and timely step moving on to Brede. Thank you, Johanna, for your presentation and insights. I know you will still be here answering questions and also following the webinar. So if you still have questions for Johanna, she is here. Brede from Entur, the floor is yours.
Yeah, short about Entur first. Don't have any extra slides on that. Entur is a company in Norway building a national infrastructure for information and also ticketing, booking, aftermarket. And we also know increasing with working with new modes and also data analytics. So a pretty fun place to be. Today, my responsibility is the timetable information part of this, and also working a lot with the politics around regulations. So I will step in for Lars Tore on this presentation for the ticketing part. Then. So what we want to achieve here is with cross-border ticketing, the next big step is to help the Green Deal, make it easier to find information about sustainable transport. It's easy, as Bjørn mentioned every time he can. It's very easy to point in a destination in your car and drive to any place in Europe or the world. For public transport and mobility, it's pretty difficult to do that today. So we want to do something there, which will open up new markets for the public transport sector and also new industries. We want to do this cross-border thing with low-cost approach, and we want to give a travel value to the travelers. So what we do, how we want to do that today is in the Nordic, we have a collaboration in the Odin project with Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. So we have, for the last 3-4 years, had a proof of concept of an open ship runner joint search engine up and running. So we feed that with the timetable data from Denmark today with GTFS, from Finland today also with GTFS. Both those countries has NetX now, but we haven't had time to switch to that. From Sweden and Norway, we are using NetX. And that give us the possibility to find easily cross-border traffic. Today we are lacking the international ferries that Johanna talked about, which we hope to get from ferry gateways in not that long time. This API is open for use, so our cross-border approach is that we want to base that on the national access points, which is a part of the MMTIS regulation. We want to utilize national ticketing solutions when that exists. We have it in Norway at Entur, we have it in Sweden at Samtrafikken, we have it in Denmark from Reisekort Reiseplan, and there are in Finland several systems, but we want to see how we can do this in the most easiest way. We want to do this international approach with an open source approach. So we are building this open source. We want to have it transparency for the travelers. What we mean with that is today you can buy a rail tickets through different countries in different channels, and the price for that same seat on the same time varies a lot. In sometimes also extreme much differences in the price. So the transparency here, we want to have the best price available at time of purchase for the customers, regardless of which channel or app the customer try to use. Open source also ask for collaboration model, so we want to collaborate as much as possible with everyone that is interested in this. We want to have a thin layer integration in this booking part, cross-border. So we want to move a lot on the heavy complexity today from an app to a backend system. So that's also part of this. We want to be compliant with the EU and European Railway Association's regulations, which is MMTs and TSI telematics, and MDMS and multimodal digital mobility service and single digital booking and ticketing regulation is now starting up. MDMS was a project regulation started and was ended last year, but it starts up again in 2 different tracks. One for public transport and the single digital booking and ticketing regulation for rail. So that will be 2 different tracks this time. So here is an example of how we have done it today. This is something that we are almost ready to go into production. So this has been developed from Entur with a close collaboration with Samtrafiken in Sweden. So here we have done a trip search in OpenTripPlanner that you saw on the previous slide. So we find a transport travel from Trondheim to Oslo to Gothenburg, and the last leg to Copenhagen. So we have developed a Nordic marketplace there, which use the Entur sales system to find the price from Oslo to Gothenburg, which is part of the Norwegian sales responsibility. And the last Göteborg to Copenhagen is used on the new sales system from Samtrafiken, where we get 2 different products with 2 different prices, and we pick the best one for the customer. And this is done in a way that we want to also include new providers into this. So if we get the Netex data from Ferry Gateway or a different rail operators in Sweden, then we can enhance this network pretty easily. I think that was this is the status of what today. We have the multi-public transport ticketing in place in Norway. We have the Nordic trip planning solutions in place. We have the cross-border ticketing almost solved. The issue and problem today is the open data in our neighboring countries and the quality of that, and also in the rail sector in Europe in general is lacking correct data to be easily used. So what we have solved since the last webinar is that the after-sales integration and Entur Samtrafiken is in place. With that, both from a customer center view, but also self-service. So you can book a ticket in this solution, and you can cancel it, self-service. The settlement, we have secured money flow in the right directions. So when we collect all the money for this kind of ticketing purchase, we send the money to the operators in Norway, and we send the money to Samtrafiken, which then send the money to the right operator in Sweden. And Entur and Samtrafiken has a good collaboration on this with weekly check-in and making progress on this sales integration. We have hacked the Swedish data in production since December. What we mean by the hacked is that it's not plug and play, so we can't use automatic processes on that. So we are collaborating with Samtrafikken to also secure that in the future, but it's going to be this for a period of time. We don't know the dataset from Samtrafikken, rip it apart, rebuilding it, and use that rebuilded NetX in our production in Norway. And the next steps will be that we want to have scalable with new data exports. So either if Samtrafikken is solving that issue, or the rail operators or any operators in Sweden or the Nordic countries on NetX deliver us the correct timetable data and also the ferry gateway, then we can easily import that, have automatically process validation tools, pipelines on that. So that's something that we will focus and motivate the parties to solve. Today we have email reports between Samtrafikken and Tur, and we want to have and use APIs for that. Samtrafikken has a certification process, so we have been ready to be in production with this since end of December, beginning of January. But Samtrafikken has a certification process that will start in March. So the plan and aim is to start selling cross-border tickets Oslo-Copenhagen within end of March, beginning of April. And we also want to do more user testing to secure this is a viable product and what to focus on next. That was the last slide of that I had.
Thank you, Brede. I will just start with the question that's on the chat that goes through the using the standards of GTFS versus the NetX and for greenhouse gas emissions prediction.
We can use GTFS and NetX in the same OTP. We use that today. But we want to have NetX when we want to use this for sales purposes. The reason behind that is that NetX stores a lot of more data to secure this in more building more automatic self-service systems, which is not possible with GTFS. GTFS we can use for trip planning, but not to enhance it with ticketing as of now. And the greenhouse emission prediction, we are working on that at Tur in a Norwegian scale. So we may include that in this also cross-border thing in the future, but it's not at the plan at the moment.
Okay, would that be used by in the NetX standard then?
No, we have a
Yeah.
project outside of
Outside.
collaboration between many
Yeah.
what you call it, agencies, authorities in Norway. And so we have a data set from them with different classes of vehicles and how CO2 comparison between them. So we are working, we will start working to integrate that into OpenTripPlanner. So when you have got a result from A to B with different modes, you will hopefully see the comparison. This is a little bit more greener than this one. Yeah.
There's another question in the chat before I give the word to you, Søren. Does the Nordic ticketing system integrate all available operators and all available tariffs? And does it offer journey continuation guarantee in case of a missed connection, for instance?
Yes and no. For the beginning here is a price plus price. and no guarantee at and Göteborg. The next operator we will include will have travel guarantees within Sweden. That will be part of this. But the change between the Norwegian and the Swedish data is operated by agreement and doesn't have that strong guarantee, as far as I know. It includes what is available in the sales system that we use here.
Okay, thank you for that. Question from or comment from you, Søren?
Just a couple of things. You're getting prices in both, I guess, in Norwegian and Swedish krona. How do you do the what do the end users see?
They will see only one. If they are using N2, they will see it in Norwegian crowns, and if they are using an API, see it in Swedish crowns, it will be in Swedish crowns. Yeah. So we collect and sell it with one currency, I think. Yeah.
So you do the conversion internally, so the customer doesn't have to bother with that.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I had, I mean, what we're trying to do here on the NEMU project and what you guys are doing is, I mean, we are on uncharted territory. I mean, there are no standards for what we're doing. The only thing is that we are, of course, is building on top of the MMTIS regulation. So we use that as a foundation. How do you see what you're doing and what you have explained here plays into the regulatory efforts that is now ongoing in Europe?
Yeah, an interesting question and something that we will discuss more in London next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe not all the participants here will be there.
Well, we cheated with our new slides here. If you see a pyramid with a strong fundament in the bottom, which is hard to change, and on the top of the pyramid, you have the APIs, which is smaller integrations, easier to change, easier to replace it with a new one if you need that. What you have in the transport of NetX world that we have built the old systems in Turon is that we have the transmodal-based system specification in the bottom, and we have the NetX series layer in the second level, and we have national profiles in the third level, and we are missing API specification for booking in that pyramid. It's not existing. So what we work with there within the SEN and also asked by the EU Commission to do that, is funded by that, is to work in a quorum project to define that transmodal-based booking API on the top. So when we are working on the Nordic marketplace software, we are building that in a consensus of having a new booking API in the top. So what we want to do with that is kind of this slide, where we have the transmodal-based pyramid in the middle here with the orange upper layer missing. We have the TOMP API, which can be used for micromobility, some public transport. But it's built on GTFS enhanced to support NetX and other specifications. But the bottom fundament layer of that pyramid is lacking. It doesn't exist. For the rail industry, they have on the left side, the right side, OSDM here. They have a fundament in the bottom, but it's based on TAF regulations for rail. So it's a specification that works for rail only. They have a data exchange layer that lacks a lot of data quality and data issues. When it compares and we want to merge that data with other public transport in that region or country. And they are building a new API for booking on top that they named OSDM, Open Sales and Distribution Model. It's an online API. A lot of good things in that. But the new TSI for rail in Europe will replace the fundament of that pyramid with transport and NetX. So what happens in that pyramid when you have an API on the top and you change the fundament? You have to do something. So from Entur, we see that OSDM is not the correct future API specification for booking. It's that specification they have developed in Sweden. So we also see that in real life practice implementations. So we want to take the best from TOMP, the best from OSDM, the best from Entur experience, and a few other, and merge that together and develop a new API specification for booking and aftermarket and selling tickets. So that's our view on that. And this can raise a lot of questions.
Okay, thanks. And without any surprise, Edwin is on. It's on you with you on this subject. It seems from the chat. Thank you, Edwin. Anything?
The father of
yeah.
the father of TOMP API. Yeah.
Yeah, Jenny, where are we?
No, we are. Thank you so much, Brede. Any questions to him? And even though you find that maybe a little bit technical, if there are questions that you say that, okay, I didn't understand how that means in a bigger sense, you're allowed to ask that. There are no questions that are that is forbidden in this room, just to be sure that you understand that, our dear audience. Very good presentation, Brede. Yes, Ole?
Yeah. So is it correctly understood that you're actually defining the standard, that you're making this? Yeah. I mean, you integrated with Samtrafiken. Now you can sell tickets into Samtrafiken tickets to Copenhagen, but you're also defining the standard that we should implement in Denmark potentially, so you can also sell our tickets. Or
Yeah.
Is that correctly understood?
Yeah, and Entur is not defining that standard. We are doing that in collaboration with the SEN standardization working group. So that working group has players from Entur, Samtrafiken, UIC, which is working on OSDM. Edwin from in this place group is part of that working group, so maybe he is have more information and knowledge about that. I'm not personally involved in that work, but we want to do that in a collaboration with all the stakeholders that have an interest in that. Yeah.
Yeah, but probably
Sounds good.
will take quite a while before we will achieve this final picture, of course.
So
But,
I think what we could say, it's on again. I think what we could say from the NEMU project is we're trying to show a way forward. Will this be the way forward? We don't know, but we are trying to do it in the scale and with actual users to try to accelerate this transition and make it possible to go. So of course. I would think the next step for the N2 from the north-south corridor is to go through Denmark down to Hamburg, and there would be obvious to have a connection with the Danish ticketing system. And in Denmark, it's so convenient that it is all we have all ticketing system under one umbrella. So therefore, that integration might be easy, even though it might not be the final EU standard, but hopefully we'll get close. So, but still, we're not. I think, and that's important to note. We're not trying to do something here based on something that you need to go out and buy. I mean, it's you can do it yourself, get it on GitHub and start doing it. So there's nothing here. We're trying to stay away from closed ecosystem. We're trying of vendor specific ecosystems. That is. So therefore, we are a lab, if you can call it that. A lab for the future standard.
Yes.
Good. Edwin, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, one final remark, or just a little bit. Johanna mentioned in the first presentation that the Ferry Gateway API was used for the Viking line. We're taking this one into account in the Quorum project as well. So maybe finally we'll have something that covers that.
Can you repeat? You are taking it where?
It's involved and will be part of the Quorum project. So.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yes, nice.
Maybe we'll have this Quorum project on the agenda for maybe a next one of the next webinars when we're beginning to get something out of that group. It's very interesting and encouraging.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Søren, in order to actually keep the group here informed of the progress as well. And also going back to Ulla's question, in a way, how do we keep each other informed and so on. So I think that's relevant. Maybe we can also do some status update on the Nordic Plus website about the NEMU project with regards to this topic.
Yep.
Søren.
Yep. Noted.
Good. Unless there are any questions to Brede, I guess it's timely to give the word to you, Søren. You will have a short presentation. And so please, Søren.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if I can get this one out.
It looks fine to us.
Yeah, I just need to have cleaned my own surface here. Okay, we're going to talk about the NEMU rig, and that was introduced a little bit by Trond in the beginning. So it's all about establishing the Nordic region as a front runner for sustainable mobility, and doing that using all the data and the smart connectivity as we are able to do. So let's get on with that. So what is the NEMU rig? Right now, it's a project funded by Nordic Innovation, but in principle, the Nordic Plus have been operating a rig for some years now. We started up with defining the first program, Nomad, which was the roaming program, if you will. How can we roam between countries with mobility as a service? And then the next that we proposed was the NEMU project, which was a follow-up on the Nomad project, but where we actually moving from desk study to actual implementation and testing, verifying that what we have contemplated actually also work in life. And then now this NEMU rig is the participants, the people that's kind of pushing this forward is the Nordic ITS organizations. So we meet regularly to discuss this, but we definitely need input from a lot of people and also for the participants here today, because we already now looking for the next projects, and that's something I'll be talking a little bit about. So we'll be here for some years. We're funded now to 27, but definitely the NEMU will, the rig activity for freedom of mobility in the Nordics will continue until resolved. Basically, that's at least the mission statement from us. So what are we accelerating? We're accelerating data sharing. We and you've already learned that today from Brede, that one of the stumble blocks that we are facing is that data, to share data means that data has to be the same formats kind of very rigidly. And as soon as we move to a border, we can easily come to seeing that, yeah, you say it's the same data, but really it's not. So it's something that we need to work on. Other thing is the competitive and sustainable part of the agenda. And that's to be competitive. It means that you are able to move around freely. And it also means that moving around cross borders to work, for instance, and go to meetings. But just the transition, just the border traffic between Sweden and Denmark has a value of 20 billion Danish kroner for the Danish society or the local economy in the Copenhagen area. So there's a lot of money involved in this as well. And the more we can make it easy for people to move and get work also on the other side of the border, then that would be good for the whole ecosystem, the Nordic ecosystem. And then we are accelerating through pilots, and that means that we are looking for projects that are near a commercial scale, but needs the last pushes to get across. And maybe we're not even sure that we have found the right solution, but then we are trying to test it. But it's mostly related to testing it live and move ahead that way. And the whole thing is driven by, the whole program here is funded by Nordic Innovation. So therefore, we are using the vision, the Nordic vision, as formulated by Nordic Innovation. And the vision is there that we are in 5-6 years time, we'll be able to use or be used to use multimodal journeys much more than we are today. We'll also see that mobility as a service, I mean, you buy your mobility as you need it, both for short and longer distances, is something that we can trust, and it's established and used much more than we do today. And to do that, mobility data is important. That's the one that kind of opens their eyes for the customers, that there are an alternative to the car and to flights. And so then we need to get collaboration going between all the stakeholders. And this is one of the, I think, the biggest work that is ahead of us now. Then the Nordic model for mobility should become a success story. And I think I'm beginning to hear it already that, hey, there's something cooking in the Nordics. What is it? What is it that you're doing? But hopefully the result of it will also generate business and more jobs in the region. So the scenario for what we are trying to achieve is that we have at least 4 national or regional mass players in the Nordics. We begin to see who that could be today. I mean, we have Entur in Norway, we have Reiskort Reisplan in Denmark, we have Samtrafiken in Sweden, we have Matkahuolto in Finland. And maybe there'll be some other private or public actors who take on this effort. And what is to get this one working, we really believe that we should rely on data, open mobility data, as they are published in the national access points. That is the foundation. And then in 2030, we have also seen the completion of the regulation for booking and payment, which is the only one missing. Brede talked about that. And then in 2030, probably we have updated our systems in the Nordics so that we can actually freely roam around. And that means that if I'm on the Finnish app, and then I can see the whole Nordic in Finnish, and all payments in or prices in euro, even though it's a scooter share in Trondheim or it's a car share in Oslo, it's a trip from Helsinki or Tampere to maybe Odense in Denmark to visit H.C. Andersen's museum. Always, so in principle, you are roaming like home. What you're doing remote is just like home. It's just a little bit longer away. So this is the ambition for the Nordic vision for roaming around. You don't need, as it is today, you would need 4, 5, 6 apps to do just what I've talked here, and you need to learn them, and you'll need to do translations of currency and whatnot. And this is there's no need for that. Digital solutions can make that go away. So the outcome that we are looking for is, in principle, value creation for the Nordic businesses, that we can allow by people moving around much more freely today would increase our value creation in our region, and thereby also the improved collaboration and governance for data sharing. And working on using the same standards, regulations, etc. And that again is something that we try to do also out of what we're doing here on NEMU and the coming projects. So if what is listed on this page is, I guess, what Nordic Innovation will be looking towards in the annual report to see from the RIG initiative, have we delivered on those promises, and that's why we're here today. So what is it that we're talking about? We're talking about open mobility data from national access point, and so far in this NEMU project, we are focused on scheduled modes. We have, and more specifically on rail, at least for the northern-south corridor. But behind the scenes, actually, the buses are already there, at least some of them. The V buses are going from Oslo to Copenhagen already. And then for the Finnish part, we have buses, long-distance buses, private buses, and we have the public transport sector in Finland, plus we're getting the ferries. So we're beginning to eat in on all the different modes that should be available through the national access points. But we're still missing to take into consideration the DRT modes and some of the private modes that are not traditionally covered in public transport, multimodal public transport ecosystems, at least. But it's something that I know that it's a law in Denmark that it has to come. In Finland, it has been regulated in a different way, and I believe Entur is also looking in that direction going forward. So that just means that there's enough work for us to do. When we're talking about the borderless Mars agent, that is, again, it's using open mobility data from the national access points, but also it can deliver multimodal travel services from anywhere in the Nordics to anywhere else and back. And the framework that we're trying to have here in the NEMU rig is that we are willing to entertain any initiatives going forward, but it has to adhere to the EU regulations. We're not trying to come up with any competing ways of doing stuff. It's simply, in my view, too costly for any organizations to maintain several schemes in parallel and keep them updated. And there has been made some decisions here, and this is the framework for us. So what are we looking for? We need some input from you guys. And in the NEMU rig, we are beginning to see what comes after NEMU. As we now are beginning to open up for buses, for trains, and for ferries, how can we scale that to the whole Nordic? But also, how do we get the other modes in? And there, one big questions that we put out to you guys ahead of the meeting, but also we would like to get some feedback from you kind of now, is what are the next steps needed, and what do you feel is most needed in order to move to the direction of seamless mobility for all multimodal, both demand responsive services, but also cross-border travel option, again, from your favorite app. So I don't know, Jenny, how I was thinking about organizing that as a word cloud exercise. How can we arrange that?
Yeah, that is, I have some technical issues with my Teams, unfortunately. I've had that for a while. So if we have some questions and answers, maybe I will try to find that out during the things. I have a microphone problem as well, so I'm on two devices now, actually. So I'm sorry about that, but I think it's good to ask maybe some input here as well from people. I know you want to have the word cloud, unless Inge is very quick and has that in her app.
But then, I mean, we can easily. We have some guys in the audience who are very good on the chat, so we can easily use the chat for this. So and then we can just to get that off afterwards and get that as input to the NEMU rig. So listen all. If you could please answer, what would you think is the next step? I think somebody already, Marco is already on it. Just follow up on that. Where should we put our focus after that? Now we have opened, after the NEMU success, for multimodal journeys using scheduled modes of, should we continue on scheduled modes? Should we start working on other modes? What are your thoughts? And where would you like to see us go? So if you could do me a favor, please use the chat and enter some. It could be single words, it could be short sentences, and it could be, you can. There, Edwin is on it already.
Søren, we'll gather all this, and I can make a word cloud out of these as well afterwards, and share that as a PDF to everyone. It would be nice if you can just put some thoughts of future projects and words, as Søren said.
So the other things that if you're thinking about what is important here, so what what are the biggest obstacles in trying to achieve this, and that's likely where we should put our efforts. Some more ride-sharing focus. That's definitely the DRT. Yeah. Cross-border ride-sharing. Can I get a ride to my job in Lund from Copenhagen? That would be good.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
And not just between Denmark and Sweden, but also Sweden, Norway, and up north in the regions where you have borders with Finland, Sweden, and Norway. It's good that you question also each other's question. So I can hear in between while you're writing that and also commenting on it. Just a small correction that Nordic Plus is also about the Baltic region. Though Nordic Innovation is not financing any Baltic countries, we include them into Nordic Plus, and they are part of these projects but not getting funding. So we get information, we get network, and we get data from them when needed. And Nordic Plus is also funded by Nordic Innovation. However, we already or will have in the spring now an organization number under Nordic Plus, meaning Nordic Plus can apply for projects, activities, and will be the umbrella for projects like NEMU, and will apply and can apply and be part of EU projects, Horizon projects, can be part of Interreg projects, can be part of other projects, where also this topic can be applied, but other topics that goes into automation, digitalization, electrification, anything that drives transport and logistics forward into the right goals defined by Nordic and also EU. So that is just a clarification that Nordic Plus is also more than just about data and connectivity. So we will also have a newsletter soon coming out from Nordic Plus, where we'll also share about NEMU project, but other projects. And we will also have, so I urge you to follow on LinkedIn our Nordic Plus, because we shared information about this project here, but also about the overall umbrella structure, and you can follow about news. So I think you got some good responses in the chat, Søren, and you can continue so we can have moving on.
Yeah, I think just if I look on the timing, I think the next one is maybe it's interesting, but I think the first one here is the best one. The next questions that we have asked was, how can the travelers trust the mass agent service to deliver a complete, unbiased list of travel options? This is something that is it's actually an important part of the regulation for multimodal travel information services. That is that if you're saying that you're delivering multimodal travel service, you are not allowed to put your own offerings, if you will, on top. You have to not mislead the end user, and maybe it's a difficult one to have in a discussion like this. But if you have some thoughts on that, be my guest in the chat as well. So that this is, I think, this is one of the things that really makes some of the rail operators a little bit uncomfortable, that they'll be shown next to maybe long distance buses going the same way. and they will not be the first one shown because maybe they're not always the best option. And it's much easier to control in a native environment where you kind of decide what the customers should see.
Can I
It
comment
could also, yeah.
by voice here and not just write in the chat, or was it supposed to be that we are writing in the
No.
chat? Or okay,
No.
yeah, because this is actually something that, because Matkahuolto is a company owned by private bus companies. So originally when we started, so we had this discussion that what we is it okay that when we integrate the trains, that oh my god, then they will choose the train and not the bus. But then we quite quickly realized that, hey, offering ticket sales multi-service ticket sales platform is a different business than trying to promote certain services. So but there are things, I think, that now that we are using the OTP, for instance, and there are a lot of configuration options there that affect that how these different options appear. But then, of course, OTP is an open source software, so everybody knows what is done there, and it's quite, so I think in that sense it's quite a fair game. But I don't know if it's open. I don't know, because you can do the different configurations there. So I don't know if that is somehow described anywhere, that, for instance, how we are using it, or how Entur is using it, or how the Finnish Fintraffic is using it. So what kind of, so I guess, and I'm not sure if I even want to kind of be responsible of publishing our configuration, but in a sense I think that this is quite interesting issue, that and if we compare, for instance, booking.com or those hotel service portals, so of course you can buy. I guess there is something that they show some options if they I don't know what is the logic there. I mean,
Yeah,
can
but
we learn something?
at least because they are biased, but at least
Yeah,
they're telling that they are biased.
exactly. Yeah,
The
you need
worst
to tell
thing
it.
is if you are biased and not telling it.
Yeah,
Then
so that's what I mean. Yeah.
that is no trust. But anyway, Joanna, that was
Yeah.
great reflections on how you have approached it in Matkahuolto, and seen from a regulation point of view, you made a good choice. Anyway, I think we need to move on.
Yep.
So
Please.
the last thing from me is some call for actions. You can make notes of the next webinars in this area, one in May and one in September. And also we'll have a NEMU conference, a physical get-together in Oslo, October 27. So keep an eye on the social media and our homepage for that. But that will be the first time where we actually get together and maybe get some more into discussions and brainstorming on what the next project is. But there are many other ways you can enrich the NEMU project. That is, you can come up with ideas to projects, and we are open 24 hours a day for that. You can also be our eyes and ears for funding. We are, of course, looking for funding, both from Nordic Innovation and elsewhere. But you might be part of an activity that is seeking for funding that needs some more. So please let us know. Spread the word of what you're doing, and also become part of the journey towards the seamless mobility in the Nordics. And if nothing else, you can always start looking how are you aligned with the open mobility standards that are already regulated. Have you done your homework? If not, now is the time. So that is my call for action today. Follow us on the NEMU page on ITS Nordic Plus, and if you need some more input on the NEMU RIC program, you can use me as a contact person. So that's the presentation for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Søren, for that. Ola, do you have your hand raised? Sorry.
No.
No, sorry. It looked like the
Old hand.
that was I'm sorry. That was as I said, I had some Teams issue here. Excellent, and I urge you to follow up on what Søren just said, because this is not being done without your input and your help. Next is very interesting because we will hear from Nordic Network for Electric Aviation, part 2. He will explain why there's a number 2 behind it. But we've been discussing mainly road and a little bit ferry, but it's also important to see how electric aviation can be integrated into the overall transportation system in the Nordic Plus region. I would like to give the word and the floor to Christopher Lewandowski, and who will explain a little bit more about the project and also about the policies, I guess, and the tools to facilitate this. So please, the floor is yours, Christopher.
Thank you. Can you both hear me and see me?
We can, now I can see you and hear you, yes.
Perfect. So I'm very excited to be invited to talk to you today. I think you have a very, very interesting project going, and will provide a different view on transportation and what we do specifically in aviation. So my name is Christopher Lewandowski. In my regular day job, I am the Innovation Program Manager at Heart Aerospace. I'm not going to talk about Heart Aerospace today, but we are a Swedish developer of regional hybrid electric aircraft for 30 passengers. And I'd be happy to pick up a conversation with any of you at a time that would be convenient for you. But today I'm going to talk about our project, Nordic Network for Electric Aviation. And this is actually the second iteration of Nordic Network for Electric Aviation. We had a project go in for 3 years. We're now in the second phase, so NEA 2, and hopefully we will have a follow-up project in a few years. But we are in the middle of NEA 2. And there are a bunch of different actors. We have the Nordic airports represented, Nordic airlines represented, a few other organizations that are working on policies and enabling electric aviation. And we also have 2 aircraft OEMs. We have Elfly from Norway that are manufacturing a 9-seater seaplane, and we have Heart Aerospace. We are funded by Nordic Innovation. And I would like to give some context to regional aviation and why it needs to be a little bit revamped. So let's start from that. So there are 3 big challenges when it comes to regional aviation. First of all, it's the profitability. We've seen a decline in regional aviation, and it's mostly due to the low profitability. We have high acquisition costs for the airplanes, but what really kills it is the maintenance cost for these turboprop engines. Because when you fly shorter distances, you need to do a lot more maintenance per flown kilometer. And it also consumes way more fuel on shorter distances than you do on these long distances. And that has driven business models to work only with large airplanes flying long distances. So this hub and spoke system is really driven by that cost and the capabilities of modern jet engines. And that, of course, affects the accessibility. So regional airports are struggling to get by, and as a consequence, fewer regional routes are flown, so the accessibility for people living close to smaller airports is decreasing by the day. And then the big one, of course, is the climate. The impact from aviation stands for about 3% of the global CO2 emissions today, but it is growing exponentially. So up until 2020, it looked a little bit something like this on the emission side. So about 1 gigaton of CO2 emissions per year. And this is not looking to decrease anytime soon, except for during the pandemic. It's actually projected to threefold. So by 2050, we're going to be at 3 gigatons of CO2 if we don't do anything. And this is not because we have worse engines than that we had before. They're actually improving a lot, but this is by increased demand. So we have an opportunity to do something about this now, and we need to do that with new technology. So our focus is on short-haul flights. That usually constitutes regional aviation. And by targeting flights under 1,500 kilometers, we could reduce the CO2 emissions from aviation by a third. And even routes up to 400 kilometers are really attractive because that's where you can start. And if we look at the Nordics, so this is the number of routes distributed on how far you actually fly. And in the Nordics, 24% of the routes are actually under 400 kilometers, which makes it a very attractive case to electrify. There are a lot of things going on in the electric aviation business. We had from Elfly, for example, we have seaplanes, usually smaller planes, but can fly point to point. We also have a bunch of projects looking at electric vertical takeoff and landing vessels, like flying electric taxis, essentially. But we also have the more sort of conventional takeoff and landing airplanes that utilize regular infrastructure, like landing strips and airports wherever they go. So a lot of things are happening. And now moving into what NEA is really about. NEA has the vision of a connected and vibrant Nordic region, which I think a lot of us share. And we look to empower that by electric aviation. And the mission is really to accelerate the shift towards electric regional aviation through collaboration. So with all those partners that I showed in the first slide, we're really looking to collaborate. So this is what we want to achieve. And how we do that, we've divided our project into 5 work packages. We have project management, really focusing on the collaboration side. We're also developing a decision support tool, which I will talk more about later. We're looking into the infrastructure that is needed for for electric aviation to basically get it off the ground, but also new opportunities on the infrastructure side. Safety and security is everything in the aviation business. So we are looking into that not just as an obstacle, but as an opportunity. To get a broader outreach, to make decisions on a high level, we also have a big public affairs work package to educate our decision makers. And I'm going to show examples of that as well. So let's focus on these 2 work packages. And let's start with work package 5. So what we see here is that we need Nordic alignment. So the Nordics are a very, very strong region. I think we're the 12th largest economy if we combine our economies. And we need a common goal when it comes to sustainable aviation. And we do see that. So all the Nordic countries have signed or aligned with the ICAO goals of being net zero by 2050, but we also see a bunch of different roadmaps on how to get there and a bunch of different promises on the way there. So what we've done is that we've published this report on things that we need to do to get to 2050. And things that where we highlight differences in the different Nordic countries as a sort of stepping stone or a conversation piece where we can talk to different politicians in the Nordics. And we use this as our baseline when we did a policy tour. So we've been around the Nordics talking to all the Nordic ministers and had conversations with them to educate them, but also to learn on what is actually possible to do from a policy perspective. It all sort of culminated in August last year when the Nordic transport ministers signed the Nordic Declaration for Electric Aviation, where they've signed an agreement that we should collaborate in the Nordics. We should advocate collectively and stand together towards the global platforms. And we should promote and accelerate the establishment of commercial electric aviation in the Nordics, not just flying, but also have a strong aviation industry in the Nordics. So how do we support these decisions? There are a bunch of decisions that need to be made. So what we've done in Work Package 2 is to develop a decision support tool. And we call it the NEMU Vision tool. It's both to visualize what we think that the future could look like, but also to paint to paint the picture of what the Nordics could look like with electric aviation. So there are a bunch of decisions that need to be made to see what, like you can see this sort of blue, purple, and black spaghetti in the diagram here. There are a lot of decisions that need to be made to really decide on how that spaghetti should look. So typical decisions are on the aircraft manufacturer side. Are we creating a product that will work on this specific market? And on the operator side, what routes can we fly and should we fly? For the airport owners, like where's the biggest interest? What sort of traffic can we expect? How should we equip our airports so that they can accommodate the new routes? And on the politician side, what sort of regions could have the most impact and where should we sort of put the effort in? On the regional side, how can electric aviation support our specific region? How can it help us achieve our climate goals? And for people in general, because this is an open tool, how can electric aviation support what I want to do, where I want to work, travel, and live? So we want to ask this tool a few questions, and we can. So starting out with a simple question, is electric aviation feasible? It looks like it's feasible. So we have 284 airports in the Nordics. They're kind of well spread out, so there's no lack of airports. Some of them are quite small, though. But if we look into the routes, so we have about 2,400 possible routes under 200 kilometers, which is the electric range for our ES30. It's also the electric range for Elfly's seaplane. So yes, it's possible. And can it actually have an impact? Well, if we move up to 400 kilometers, the spaghetti starts to look very, very cluttered. Obviously, not all of these routes are going to be flown, but impact is absolutely possible. But is there an existing market? So we won't fly all of these routes. What are the routes that are currently existing? So if we look at the routes that are currently being flown that are under 200 kilometers, there are certainly a few routes. If we look from Stockholm to Mariehamn, Stockholm to Visby, Copenhagen to Bornholm, we have a lot of routes, and of course a lot of routes in the northern part of Norway. 40 of those 80 routes are currently public service obligation routes. So there's definitely a market. And if we move up to 400 kilometers and just look at the public service obligation routes, then we see that there are 73 routes that we could service like off the bat. So that's the existing market, but is there a new market? And then it gets a little bit tricky, right? What's a good market? Where would you fly instead of, for example, taking a train or your car or a bus? So when flying saves 1 hour or more, we can say that yes, it probably has a larger promise than if it would save 0 time. So what we've seen is that price and travel time, those are the main deciding factors for when you pick your mode of transport. So we have we have a lot of routes essentially. You can see that the green ones are flown and the blue and black ones are not currently flown. But if we just look at the routes that could be flown, we see that we have a lot of routes. 143 routes will save people 3 hours or more. And only 16 of those are served today. And this is, by the way, this is data that comes right out of the tool. So nothing that's specifically tailored for this. So I'll do a pop quiz, and you don't have to answer. Maybe you want to answer in the chat. Maybe you don't. But think about this. Which airport in the Nordics has the most possible routes within 200 kilometers range? So just think about that for a few seconds. And the answer is, it's actually Karlstad Airport. So under 200 kilometers is this one. And it's currently not being trafficked. That's actually not true because they recently started a new airline company to service a few routes to, I think it's to Stockholm and Copenhagen. But a lot of these airports are actually have great promise to fly new routes. But of course, it needs to be a part of a larger transport system. So if we move on to the sort of airport side or continue on that, you could do analysis on a specific airport and what you could actually do there. So Gotland, it's obviously an island, so it's good for aviation. They're actually pretty dependent on aviation. We saw last summer when the ferry traffic went down, they were quite isolated. So obviously you can save a lot of time when traveling between Gotland and the mainland, not just to Sweden, but to Finland as well. I think flying from Visby to Turku actually saves you somewhere around 12 hours in traveling time in comparison to taking the ferry and a car and a ferry again. And I don't think people do that traveling as often. I think that's the consequence of that travel time. They actually don't go. So this is where the regions come in and how they could actually expand their network and reach collaboration with more partners and have that sort of steady flow of knowledge, of businesses coming in, of tourists coming in. To wrap it up, this is available now. You can go into map.nordicnia.com and register, and you could do your own analysis. Remember to ask questions and see if you can have the tool answer it for you. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was very, very interesting. I was almost actually going into the. Can you write the where to test this out? Because I had one question. What about the northern part of Finland, Norway, and Sweden when you have the close region and vast population? What can I play with the map to make that how that would look like from a 200-kilometer flight like you did for Karlstad and Visby?
Sure. You go into the map and then you will see all the routes.
Excellent.
You have some filtering options on your left side. Like if you want to filter away routes that don't save you more than an hour, you can do that. And then you just click on any airport that you want to look at, see what routes can fly from there. You can sort of filter, you can sort on distance, you can sort on time saved. You can even look at all the airports at the same time and see what airport actually has the most possible routes. You can filter on runway length. You can filter on current passenger number to sort of get a sense of what current routes are flown. But what we're really seeing here is that there is a new market to be had here, and there are a lot of routes that are not flown that could be flown. And it's this case where like we didn't know what sort of effect that the bridge between Malmö and Copenhagen would have until we actually had it there. I think the projections from when they built the bridge was that they would have X number of people traveling every day. And I think we're now at 5X on the people actually traveling. So 5 times as much people. So yeah, go in and test.
Excellent. Thank you, Christopher. Søren, you have your hand raised.
Oops. Yeah. Great presentation. If people are going to and from an airport, then maybe there's already an infrastructure with connection to land transport. But are there not also a possibility with electric flights, especially that does not need an airport, land on sea? Or how are you dealing with that? Because this is mostly related to using existing air infrastructure.
Yes, both. So in the tool, we also have seaports.
Okay.
Yeah. And what we're doing now is that we are building this tool on open data sets. Of course, if we have an airline that has very specific data on their like traveling data, which they have, of course, but they don't want to share it publicly, then they can just replace our data set with their own data set and do their analysis internally. There's also an opportunity to add your own airport in the tool. So you could add a bunch of airports and you can move them around to see if you're in the business of starting a new airport or if you want to explore like more of an urban mobility sort of point of view with eVTOLs or things like that, then you can do that as well.
Okay, great. So, are there any other questions? Otherwise, could you now you're been
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just Edwin had one to add. Is it possible to add data like population and income to that model?
We've been looking at that, and we've done that based on the open data in NUTS regions. We've also added so this is not in the public. So okay, the tool is out there, it's published, but we are making updates continuously, adding more functionality all the time. And what you're asking about, Edwin, is something that we've really looked into. I guess that you want to do some sort of gravitational model analysis based on this to see like low income regions, high income regions, population, things like that. And we've looked into that, but it's not currently in the tool. But we do have the data and we have experimented with it.
Great. Any other questions or comments, Søren?
Yeah. What do you see of collaboration between the electric type of air travel and ground transport? Where do you see are there any specific needs that you are looking for from us and others?
I think from policy, politics, and communication perspective, I think that we should look at the transportation system as a whole. I think what everybody wants is an optimized, sustainable transportation system. And multimodal transportation includes, well, all modes of transport, and you should pick the one that is the best one. So let's not compete between the different types of transportation. Let's not try to play trains against the airplanes or buses against cars. I think they're all needed. So from a sort of communication point of view, I think that's what we should be aligned on. There's no silver bullet to transportation. Not everything is electric scooters, but not everything is trains either. So I think we need all modes of transportation.
It sounds like music to our ears from a Nordic Plus perspective, where we're looking actually to, I wouldn't say wash away the borders, but to make that multimodal transport that you're envisioning really seamless, really green, and really actually taking place, regardless of what transport we are using. So
yeah,
we really like to continue that work from a Nordic perspective, Christopher. So thanks for pointing that out. It's the obvious, but we need to hear the obvious at some points.
It is obvious, but not for everyone. We have a very strange case here in Gothenburg, where I live, where we actually have. So they've been advocating for a train connection to the airport for years, and now it's happening. But the local company that runs the public transport services with trains, buses, trams, and stuff, they have now banned every commercial for flying on their trams, bus stops, and things. So they obviously want the connection to the airport, but they don't want anybody to fly, which is sort of a weird thing, right? So not everybody wants this, but I'm glad that we see eye to eye on this in this group at least.
Yep, that's what we are advocating as well for. So we'll work on that.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Søren, I guess you will have the final words, but
yeah, I think I see Martin Andersen is active on the chat. I don't know if Martin, would you like to put a few words on what you are envisioning?
Well, just to reply or relay what I just answered, was it Marco, about the cost about electric aviation. We expected, I can just say it for the Danish market, that if we fly across the country from Jutland to Zealand to Copenhagen, the cost of producing a flight seat will be about equivalent as producing a train ticket from Jutland to Copenhagen, if we are talking about an unsubsidized train ticket, of course, because that is a bit of a cheating thing. So if we consider the future battery electric or electric flight as a part of the public transportation system, especially because we go closer to where the customers are, with smaller airports and airfields, because these smaller aircraft, just like Heart Aerospace and Veridian and others, can also take off from smaller airfields and islands, for example. And then it should be considered as part of the public transportation and be included in the complete mass system as well of one ticket.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, I think the interesting part from us is also to connect where there are no connections today. We know that the flight from Aarhus Harbor to Copenhagen Harbor, I mean, that's they have to provide their own land infrastructure connections to and from those two harbors. So especially for harbor-based start and entry points to air travel, that's an option that should be resolved. So the idea, the interesting thing then is, if seen from a standards point of view, is electric aviation is seen as an IATA thing or a more scheduled mode as any other modes. But I think that I'll leave that to Christopher and others to figure that one out. Another thing that maybe we're not addressed too much, safety is quite an issue on air travel. How do you see that when we come down to maybe flying from smaller airports, or even, I don't know how they're doing it today with the harbor-based flights, which are not part of the, I mean, you cannot go from a harbor to an airport. I mean, you have to check in again. So how do you see the safety issues if you're away from the so-called airports with transfers?
Question for me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have precedents in these cases where lighter aircraft, so smaller aircraft, they have less restrictions when it comes to safety. If you fly like general aviation aircrafts, then there's basically no security at all. And I think to minimize the time at the airport, a lot of noise.
Who needs to mute?
Yeah, I will try to mute that from here.
Yeah. So we do have precedents on smaller aircraft that basically doesn't have any security at all. Safety is never something that we compromise with in the aviation business, but security, there are cases where you can have a lighter security requirement, which of course minimizes the time at the airport, increases the convenience for the travelers, making a smooth transition between different modes of transport. So, but that is of course up for discussion, and I know there are discussions going on in ASEA and other forums for this.
Okay, cool. I'm happy, Jenny.
You're happy? When Søren is happy, then I'm happy. That's how it works. Very good. I think, Christopher, that is something that from obviously from both your side of the project and our side of the project, that we should really connect and see about the multimodal transport as a whole, because on our own we reach only so far, but together we can actually reach out to a larger public in this case. So that's very good. And I thank you all, unless there are kind of a final comments or words. I thank you all for joining this webinar. Søren?
Yeah, also thank you for me. And as I mentioned, we will be back. So please follow us and follow the program and join the movement. And definitely, Christopher, we will be happy to be on your first commercial trip on electric or promote that trip on electric aviation for sure.
Fantastic.
Can't wait. Okay. Have a great day, everybody, and stay safe.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Thank you.